Good afternoon and welcome back to the Aggie podcast. We are back in action as the season gets ready to start here in 2021, 2022. We're excited to have some of our sports back. We have cross country back now. We plan to play a football game on Saturday. And of course, volleyball has already started with three matches already. They are 2 for 3 this season. And so certainly we are super excited about being back in action and having the Aggie sports come back into full swing, and hopefully there will be nothing that will slow that down. I am your host, Brian Holloway, and my special guest, of course, is Earl Hilton as we return back into the Aggie podcast. We hope everybody had a wonderful summer. I hope you had a chance to relax, and I hope you're ready to cheer on some Aggie sports. So, Earl, tell me how excited you are about getting back underway here.
B, thank you so much for having me this morning. And I believe you said it well. Yeah, I just can't wait to get back in the saddle with these student athletes in this competition. Cross country, volleyball underway already, and football kicking off this weekend. So looking forward to watching our student athletes compete. They've coming out of a COVID year, done great work last year in the classroom, and those teams that were able to compete certainly made us all proud, but we're looking forward to have hopefully a 21, 22 that looks a lot more like 2019, 2020 than it does, 2021.
What are some of your concerns as you enter into this new season and this new reality that we live in called COVID-19?
Yeah, and I guess that covers most of it right there is we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Certainly the vaccines that have been administered have helped, and we're beginning to see some progress in that space. If you had asked me this 2 months ago with the numbers that we were seeing, I was in a much happier place. But recently we've seen this uptick with this Delta variant, and continue to encourage and invite people to take advantage of the technology and the blessings that we have in terms of the vaccination. But our kids are still operating in that environment, in their classrooms, in their social settings, in their living arrangements, and in their practicing their competition, their athletics. And so I don't want to underestimate the bandwidth that takes up in the back of their heads, and crowds out other things that deserve their attention. So I have the continuing worries about how they're managing through these demands of their classes, of their schedules, of their athletics, and the pandemic and the challenges it's creating for their families, how they're managing mentally through that. Are we providing them with support, the opportunities, the engagement that they need to manage through all of that successfully and gracefully and effectively and productively? So that continues to occupy a lot of our time.
Yeah, you have young adults as children as I do, and so certainly this has taken a toll on a lot of our young people. Are there some things in place that can kind of help them cope with kind of dealing with what is going on in our world today?
Yeah, this ever-present, seem like omnipresent pandemic that's with them. Certainly institutionally, I mean, A&T has provided access to mental health professionals. Not only do we have mental health counselors that are available for students generally, but we have Dr. Sadega, who is focused specifically on student athletes and their needs and their mental health concerns. We have, from an academic perspective, you're aware of what we put in place with our Center for Academic Excellence and the tutoring and learning specialists and academic coaches that are in place to help them manage through their academic side of the house. And certainly our coaches, in many ways, are the first line of defense, given the regular interaction which they have with these student athletes, to help them recognize when something may be off, when a student athlete doesn't appear to be themselves. Literally half an hour before I came to visit with you today, Brian, I was in a coach's office who was visiting with a student athlete who was struggling with some challenges that were happening at his home. some family members, some tragedies that were occurring, and had come to the coach and was working through those. And that coach wisely connected him to Dr. Sudega, to the health center, and said, "We've got a young person that needs some help navigating through this space." And so we see that happening. And our coaches are aware of it and sensitive to it and anxious to help our student athletes get to the resources that they need as they seek, again, to manage through this ever-present reality.
As we start this season off, a lot of things has happened in the NCAA. A lot of new things are going on. I think my first question about name, image, and likeness, and that new dynamic that it has created in college athletics. I don't think we're ever going back again. I think.
No. That the horse is out of the barn and not coming back.
It's not coming back. Yes, I certainly agree with that. So from your perspective, how does A&T want to go forward with this? Because I think the way it looks like each individual school kind of can set up his own way of doing this whole NIL thing.
Yeah, that's certainly how it appears. The interim policy that was released by the NCAA right at the end of June did seem to shift a lot of the responsibility for managing this new opportunity to conferences and to individual institutions. And so this is new territory for us. We have not been in this space before. No one has. And let me say at the outset that I think this is the right place for us to be. I believe that our student athletes ought to be able to benefit from their name, image, and likeness. So I am supportive of the concept of this legislation. Implementation, operationalization is going to be a little bit more challenging for us in the sense that we have never done this before. And so we are going to have to put together processes and structures to educate and to protect and to help our student athletes maximize the opportunities that are present in this space. We look forward to doing that. We are developing material that some of which has been distributed to student athletes and some of that which will come in the future that will give them some guidance in some of these spaces, because it's not just now I can make money with my name, image, or likeness. It's how does this impact my tax situation, my financial aid situation? How does it impact my parents? How does it impact my teammates? How does it impact my schoolwork? What are the things that this does to my relationships with other people at the university or in my family? And we were asking 18, 19-year-olds to make some of these decisions. And most of them have never had an agent. They've never worked with an attorney. They've never had to sign a contract. And so we want to provide as much information as we can so they can be forewarned and forearmed in these conversations, and as well so they can maximize and enjoy all of the possible benefits that may exist for them. We're excited about it. We look forward to this new wrinkle in intercollegiate athletics, and think, again, net positive for us and for our student athletes. I think A&T is ideally situated. Our student athletes, with the academic prominence that the institution is enjoying right now, and the steady rise in rankings, the athletic success that we've been able to achieve, our status as the largest HBCU in the world, puts our student athletes in a unique and wonderful position to take advantage of this opportunity. And I look forward to figuring it out. I think it's going to take us several years to figure out all the questions that we need to ask and all the places that we need to help. But certainly we're excited about stepping into this space right now.
Yeah, and certainly, my biggest concern is the taxes. Now if you sign some of these contracts, you're in a whole new tax bracket, and
right,
Uncle Sam will come looking for you and his money.
He does not play.
And so certainly, hopefully there is some financial education that goes along with all of this, which is good. I think, benefiting from, your talents is the American way, but certainly there's a lot that goes along with that. as well. Uh, Conference realignment. We kind of got into that party a little bit, maybe about a year ago with the Big South, and now we see all the big time news with the SEC, and we see the ACC kind of collaborating with other conferences. And those are kind of some of the Power Five dealings. How does a lot of that affect it going downhill to a lot of the mid-major conferences? How is the ripple effect, do you think, coming down to an A&T or Presbyterian or Coastal Carolina, some of those type schools?
Sure. Brian, the way I heard you just describe it, it sounds like they're following our lead.
Sounds like that. Yeah, always take the lead. Yeah.
Right. No, you're exactly right. Of course, when you throw a big rock in a pond, the ripples go out in all directions, and it will, and it has impacted us. I mean, the realignment started, I guess, in earnest maybe 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. We had some movement with some of the Pac-12 schools and the Big 12 schools, and even A&M leaving the Big 12 and going to the SEC. So, and that had effects, and this new structure will as well. Now, we're speaking mostly in those conversations about the football impacts of those moves, but the NCAA has announced that there will be a constitutional convention in November. So the intent is to examine the entire structure of the NCAA and determine what our true core values are and how we move forward in this new space with NIL, with realignment and shifting of conference membership across the spectrum. I don't have any crystal ball that would suggest to me that what exactly is going to happen, but I do think that the conference realignment conversations will occur against the backdrop of the NCAA, the bigger picture conversation about what the NCAA is and stands for, and what individual institutions think the role of sport in higher education might be. Because I think you've seen perhaps a departure from some of those long held traditional positions about the role of athletics in higher education at some highly resourced institutions. And again, this is perhaps way off the topic. We created some of that ourselves institutionally as we forced athletics departments to become entrepreneurial 40 years ago, 50 years ago, when we said, we're not going to mix athletics and academics. We're not going to take money from academics and support athletics, which I get and completely understand. But what that did is created that division between athletics, institutional control of athletics, and forced athletics departments to become entrepreneurial. They had to make money. And so it led to a shift in perspective and effort, which I think today has driven us to the place where athletics departments at some institutions make tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that does not go to their institution, it goes to the department. And they've been forced there because we didn't want to muddy the waters between athletics and academics, but it has led us to a place where, as you step back and look at it, it seems that we've lost our way in some ways in terms of the role of athletics in higher education and what role it should play in the institution, and how the institution should or could effectively administer an athletics program. So I think we've got some things we need to fix moving forward, and I hope the convention gives us a chance to do that.
Yeah, you look at some of these conferences, you see the ACC, Big Ten, they all have their own networks. They all have their own financial revenue stream. The idea is that they perhaps don't even need the NCAA anymore.
Right.
As these Power Fives move, do you see these Power Fives moving away from the NCAA, and where does that leave the rest of us who remain with the NCAA?
It's a very good question, and you see that a little bit of the division, or division may be too strong of a word, but you have what appears to be the SEC taking a particular strategic direction with some calculated growth, and then you read about the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and the ACC creating this alliance that seems to, at least from a language perspective, to be talking about the right things: student, athletes, institutional support, education first, athletics second kind of narrative. I do think we could end up in a place where there are 4 divisions, where we have FBS, FCS, and then non-football right now in Division I. Could there be a 4th division in Division I? Could we change what's required to be a Division I school in terms of revenue or resources or attendance or number of sports sponsored? I think all that's on the table. I think one of the difficulties you face as you step into that space is these lower mid-majors and the rest of Division I have in many instances provided the academic flavor for Division I athletics that is not as apparent at other institutions, more highly resourced. And that's not a fair statement. I don't want to characterize them as not focused on education, but there are 65 Power 5 schools, and there's 300 and something Division I schools. And I think almost everybody who gets up every morning is trying to do the right thing at all those schools. But it certainly gives the impression, if you look at it from a distance, that we are very focused on money and less focused on education. And I don't think that's the right way for us to look.
Let's get into what our fans can expect with protocols. Let's start with football. First game is September 25th. We play our arch rival NCCU. Right now, what is some of the protocols that would be put in place so that our fans can have a good time and be safe?
So at this point, I am not prepared to announce a new initiative that we're discussing right now. We are having conversations about creating some expectations for vaccinations or negative tests, but I can't announce that today because it's still in conversation. As it sits today, we are still following the recommendations established by the state of North Carolina in terms of behavior for outdoor activities. Masks are recommended, but not required in outdoor activities, and there are no current limitations on occupancy. Now, I know that doesn't make me feel comfortable, and I expect that in the next several days we will announce a different posture here at A&T, that there will be an expectation that individuals provide proof of vaccination or proof of a negative COVID test within 72 hours of coming to the game. But I'm not announcing that today. But I do expect that over the course of the next several days, we'll be in a position where that becomes our posture.
We host a volleyball tournament this weekend, the Spartan Aggie Invitational over in Corbett Sports Center. Will masks be required for you to be inside Corbett Sports Center this weekend?
Yes, they are. Indoor facilities, your masking is required, as well as social distancing.
Outstanding. So just a little note for all of our fans there. So they will be coming this weekend. The Aggie volleyball team plays American at 6 p.m. And then they play Norfolk State at 11 a.m. on Saturday and UNCG 7:30 on Saturday. Your Aggie volleyball team is off to a 2-1 start. What are you looking most forward to from A&T volleyball?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the conference realignment. The Big South is good volleyball. I mean, they play a great brand of volleyball. We are excited to be part of that and look forward. I'm excited to see us as we measure up against our new conference peers. Yeah, 2-1 start is a great place for us to be. Samford early, our first game of our match of the season late last weekend, and then took a game off Clemson. Went 26-28 in game 4, almost pushed them to a game 5. I was very pleased with that, and then certainly with Central earlier this week. I love what I see. I love the leadership that we have, the depth. I love how the young ladies play. I love how they support each other and back each other up. We've had success with individuals coming off the bench to pick the team up. Love how they're coached and how they play. So I am excited about our new chances in conference, but certainly the Big South is is a good brand of volleyball, and we're going to have to play at the top of our game to be competitive there in that space.
Yeah, getting Edie Brewer for a fifth year is not a bad circumstance to be
I'm
in.
happy to have Edie.
Yeah, we'll take it. No question. Cross country starts tomorrow night at Elon. 678 days since they've ran. I mean, they've been off more than any other sport. What do you think those young people have gone through, and what are you looking forward to for cross country?
Yeah, I've loved the development that we've seen in our cross country / long distance program, middle and long distance programs that Coach Barrett working with those student athletes under the direction of Coach Ross. I love what I've seen from a recruiting perspective. Again, this is an area that we have not historically dominated, but I do think that we are going to become a player in that space as our track program generally increases in stature. I think that our middle and long distance running will follow, and look forward to growing success in our cross country programs, men and women.
Now, football. 623 days come Saturday since they've played, and so certainly they've had a long layoff. Any concerns about putting the football team out there after such a long layoff, or what are your concerns?
I do. Most of us have never taken 2 years off football and then come back and played. So I have some worries in terms of performance. I also have some worries about making sure everybody's safe, that we're in a position where our bodies are ready to play and compete at this level. I think there will be some rust. I'm preparing myself mentally for some rust. I'm excited to see us against Furman. Again, tough opponent. Correct me here, B. Were they number one rushing offense in the country?
I don't think so, but they were a playoff team in 2019.
2019. Okay. So they like to run the ball, and we like to not let people run the ball. And so I'm excited about that matchup. I do obviously have some worries about being off for 2 years and how that will impact our ability to compete. But I'm very excited about watching Saturday afternoon.
Is there a different mentality now that the Celebration Bowl is not part of the equation? Now it's a fight for a playoff spot. Is there a difference in perspective? And here's a little fun one for you. Do you see A&T hosting a playoff game one day?
Those are two different questions. Let me see if I take the first one. Yes, there has to be, because these non-conference games are part of that equation. I've been in that room where these conversations occur, where you talk about who makes the playoffs and how do you get to the field of 16 or 24. And so these non-conference games matter. It will be talked about by the committee, especially if we're talking about an at-large bid, trying to get in outside of winning the conference championship. So yeah, every game matters in a different way, non-conference and conference, because you're trying to earn a spot in that playoff bracket. Hosting a game is an entirely different level of fish. I would love for us to host a game. The FCS playoff field expanded several years ago from 16 to 24. I think the top 8 get a bye, and so you've got 8 games in that first round. And there are some perennial schools that typically host. I think that we can push ourselves to a place where we have the reputation and the stature that we could qualify for that. But it's also a financial commitment. In order to host one of those, you have to put some money up in order to qualify for that bid. And so we need to get to a place where that makes sense from a competitive standpoint and from a financial standpoint for us to host a game. But that would be fantastic to have a playoff game in our stadium that last weekend in November, first weekend in December. It'd be a great place, great environment, great place for us and our fans to be.
So let's get into some of the fun stuff that has happened at A&T over the last few months. You've had a couple of Olympians since we last talked, 2 gold medalists and a bronze medal that came back. to the states. Talk about, just some of, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention all the NCAA championships that came away. Cambria Sturgis, Randolph Ross Jr., the 4x400 indoor and outdoor teams. It's just been tremendous amount of success. Both teams finished top 5 nationally, which is incredible when you look at some of the names of those schools that are on that list. So just kind of give me your thoughts on just what the track program did this past spring and summer.
I'm rarely speechless, but it is as close to speechless as I'm going to get, I think. The sentence you uttered a few minutes ago, tell me about your gold and bronze medalist, is a sentence that no one who's ever worked where we work and sat in these chairs has ever been able to say, Brian. To put that in perspective. Coach Ross has taken us to a place, and these student athletes have taken us to a place that we've never been. Our track program, guys finishing 3rd, girls tying for 4th. The 5 national championships you mentioned coming out of indoor and outdoor track, the host of students we took to the NCAA championships and we had in the U.S. trials, and then the representation in Tokyo with the Olympics. It would be easy to talk about this in terms of a destination and a mission accomplished, and we're really pleased with what we've done. The sense that I get when I talk to Coach Ross and is this is a sequential pattern. This is a step headed toward a destination, and as excited as we are about where we are, we shouldn't expect us to be done at this place. Certainly the expectations for our track program and for a number of our student athletes is that we continue to show progress on the national stage. The goal is to win a national championship, and that has been and continues to be our goal in indoor and outdoor track. And then we want to place a lot of athletes. I won't give a number. A lot of athletes on our USA team compete in the World Games, compete in the Olympics. We've got Paris coming up in 2024, and we expect to have a number of our student athletes representing us there in that space. So I can't even believe I'm saying this. We've had an incredible year, unimagined success, but we expect more, and we expect to get better. And that's a terrible thing for me to say about my coach publicly. But I think it's expectations that he has for himself and certainly for our program. And certainly I support him in that effort. I think we can continue to improve and be a player in the national and international space in track.
Yeah, I think you're being tamed as compared to the way Coach Ross would put that. I think he would be a little more adamant than you are about where he wants to take this thing. So I think you're being humble compared to what he would say. So the question.
He does all the work.
Yeah, he's done an outstanding job. You had Matt McCain leave before his eligibility was up. Daryl Johnson, who just got traded to the Panthers. Cambria Sturgis left before her eligibility was up. Did you ever think A&T would be in this position where, we have had athletes, leaving school early for the pros? It's an incredible place to be in.
It is incredible to have, kids pulled out before they finish eligibility and being offered and signing and competing successfully in professional sports. You asked the question, did I ever think? I'm embarrassed to say that no, I set my expectations too low, and it's a mistake I will try not to make again. So no, I admit that I undersold us, but we deserve to be here and deserve even better. We're gonna continue to push in this space.
And I'll close you out with this one. You've got a new men's golfer in town and on campus.
I hadn't heard. And he's got a great first name.
Yeah, he I think so. Earl, I think his first name is, and two-time NBA champion.
His first name is Earl.
Yes, Earl. That's right.
Yeah.
Earl Smith. Yeah. Second best Earl on campus, I think.
Oh, you're talking to the second best Earl.
I think the other Earl has a better jump shot, though. I will say that.
In his sleep, he has a better jump shot.
It's brought a lot of national attention again to A&T.
Yeah.
How fun is that for you?
Yeah, again, this is not something that you plan for, think about, dream about. I mean, no one woke up in April saying, could we get a former All-Pro, two-time NBA champion to come play golf for us? This is just something that that fell into our lap, so to speak. And we're delighted to have JR here. I'm thrilled with his desire as he looks at himself and says, I want to be and do more. I've had tremendous success, made $1 bajillion. I want education, and I want to go to the top HBCU in the country, and I want to push myself in this space. And while I'm there, I would like to see if I can open some doors for golfers, generally at HBCUs and otherwise. And he's no joke on the golf course. I mean, he's legit. He can play, and we're excited to have him for what it will mean, obviously for A&T, for our program, but for our student athletes, because he has dealt with pressure. He has been in clutch situations. He's been in championship settings and knows how to navigate that space. And that can only help our young people as they aspire to be better and to compete well under pressure, not just in athletics, but in life, because there will be other pressure-filled situations. And so we're excited on a number of fronts, what it means for him personally, educationally, what it means for us as an institution, and selfishly, what it means for us in athletics and our golf program and the young people that we're working with in that space.
Earl, do you have a final message for fans as they get ready for this upcoming season and all the excitement going into the Big South? Everybody except our bowling team. But do you have something that you kind of want to convey to them?
The only thing that I would want to say to our fans and our boosters is thank you so much for staying with us. Last year was hard with the pandemic. A lot of things didn't work out the way we had planned them. How we left the MEAC, for instance, our last football season in the MEAC. Crunching all of our sports into one semester was a challenge for our staff and for our student athletes and our fans. Changing conferences has been a difficult conversation for us. But our fans, our boosters, our supporters have stayed with us. They've trusted the leadership. They have continued to invest their time and their talents and their resources in the program that supports our students and our student athletes. And so my only message would be one of gratitude for that trust and for the continued support and investment in our student athletes, and reaffirmation of my commitment that we will do all that's in our power to continue to be worthy of that trust with how we conduct the program and how we educate and train our student athletes and how we represent A&T in the Department of Athletics across the full spectrum of sports.
Last one. How much?
You said that one. You said the last one was the last one.
Yeah, the last one. I forgot about this one. What's the level of involvement that you think J.R. Smith will have with men's basketball or women's basketball? What can we get away with?
Yeah, we're going to have to name him as a coach if he has any involvement with our men's basketball program. That's a really good question, Brian. If I was a coach here at A&T, I might find a minute to sit down with him and talk.
Yeah, just pick his brain a little bit. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. He played with LeBron, so I mean, he might know some things. Who knows?
He might know something. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, he had a pretty good jump shot, so he might know a few things. Earl, I want to thank you for joining us for this Aggie podcast. I really appreciate it. You kind of got us caught up on some of the things that we've missed out on in the summertime. And so I really do appreciate it. Appreciate the job that you do and the leadership that you provide. And
thank you so much.
And we'll be back here next week with some more guests and some more fun. And so please join us live here on the Aggie Podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, B.